Hello everybody, welcome back to Factorio. We're now in 0.17.69 for just the basics Factorio, where we show you just how to get from A to B step by step. And I have just been running through the mall to see how many parts of this are now broken, and unfortunately for me, it seems like a large portion of the actual, it seems like this is broken because we have no source of iron plates at this stage, and this also requires iron plates, but it's actually got a hookup over here. So I'm gonna have to try and figure out a way to get that in. I might have to create a double up in here so they just melt together, but that is a story for a later date. Our backlogs will suffice for the time being. I am packing so much rail right now, and we're going to be using that to set up the train line that will carry ore to our refineries in the northern section of our map here. Where the butt did I park the tank? Oh yeah, over here. And we've already used trains before to transport what little petroleum gas we can get over to our red circuits. We're going to have to be doing a lot more of that. We're going to have to be trying to sort out some kind of solution for that. But our major problem right now, of course, is the near total lack of iron that we currently have to our names. So, we need to get more iron up here. We need to service 8 different belts, essentially. And that requires quite a lot more iron than we currently have coming in. And that's going to be sorted out quite handily by this selection up here. But we have only used trains for liquids so far. This, of course, is items, and we need to actually figure out how to feed that in. Now, the reason that that is a specific and distinct kind of situation is that dealing with items is a lot different to dealing with dealing with liquids. And this is actually probably already too close to it, because there's going to be a lot of space involved with this. And the reason for that is that liquids you can handle pretty much an entire wagon, potentially, like, more than that, with just one pump. These, on the other hand, the cargo wagons, have a length of 6 inserters worth. You can attach inserters at every single point of that on both sides, so a single cargo wagon can deal with 12 different inserters. Which means that actually getting them to be filled in a rapid time is way... okay, it's a lot more complicated than using a fluid wagon, but you can get that time down so much. And we're going to be trying to get this as quick as we can, because the quicker that our trains are able to come out of the ores, then the faster they get down to the station for going into the refineries, and the more full our belts are along the main bus. Just sort of a knock-on effect kind of thing, but okay. Let's start by getting ourselves... we don't really have an 8x8. That's something I'm going to have to put in my book at some stage. But we can at least get a 4x4, so there's that going for us. So we want to leave a space of 2 there, because we need 2 to come in from that side. And let's have another one there. And for the time being, I want to say we can probably make do with just the 1 cargo wagon, especially because we're only outputting 8 lines instead of the full 12 that we could to a single wagon. So let's just get that going. Let's add ourselves a train stop while we're at that. And let's just get this added real quick. Okay, so that's the inserters. Well, that's the balances. We'll say that this is for the left and this is for the right-hand side. It doesn't matter too much, terribly. But we do need to make sure we have enough space here, so let's increase that, because our wagon, our actual wagon, is separate from our locomotive, and consequently, we don't want things accidentally getting inserted into the locomotive, because that'll just cause us quite a bit of mess. So, there we are. And let's just line that up neatly about there. Okay, and here's where things get a little more complicated. So as we can see, we can access up to 6 sections. We only need 4 for the time being. And we need to make sure that those 4 are ideally on both sides. But we don't currently have quite enough room to feed all of them. So that is a thing that will be solved when we have access to the blue belts that you've been seeing inside of these blueprints quite a bit. For right now, I'm trying to think, can we get by with having the 4 lines going into separate sides and then just dealing with that? Probably for now. Okay, another thing we're going to do is going to be adding some steel chests Reasoning for that being that we can use the steel chests as a sort of buffer. So whilst the train isn't here being loaded, we can in fact have items actually arriving so that they can be loaded in upon the train's arrival. And that saves us a bit of time. It means we're not waiting for the miners up here to actually dig out the goods that will be going into this. So that's always handy. And I'm probably going to need to get rid of some trees and some wood around here. And what do we do? Do we have anything for research? What can we put on for research whilst we're here? Stronger explosives. Sounds familiar. What's the benefit of that? Grenade damage plus 25%. We probably want that. We also probably want inserter capacity bonus, given what we're currently up to. And also, it's red and green, so it's stuff that we're actually already working with anyways. Braking force is something to consider for later. So let's go with that. Inserter capacity bonus. There we go. Okay. I usually tend to find it's best to use ghosts when you're starting out working with your trains, because it lets you actually plan ahead where things are going to be, and where they're going to go, and all sorts. And trains take up a lot of space, especially when they're just getting started, so you want to make sure that you know where they're going to end up. So let's bring this down. You can do this from the map if you wish, which is actually very handy, because it means you can deal with getting everything all the way down fixed up. And we don't really want to put stuff going in here, because that's where our train is going to be, unloading and stuff. So let's move over to here. Let's go about that distance. And then we'll come down all the way over here, and we'll hang a right. Because we want our locomotive to be a little bit ahead there, so about there. Okay, and we'll bring that way back up, over to over here. So this is once again just a single line, because right now we only have need of a single line. We don't have any reason to make a full-blown junction system just yet. But once we actually start getting things a little bit more organized, things are definitely going to roll off like that. With remembering that whilst you're setting up your first line like this, we are in fact starting up on something that's actually closer to immovable than a lot of other things in this game, because whilst we can dig this up and shift it around wherever we like, it is substantially more troublesome to do so. And oh dear, we run into some cliff. We had to try and figure out a way around with that. Nice to know that the ghost does in fact override cliffs now, even though we don't actually have the technology to remove them. So let's use our ghosts and see if we can't find a way around that. So something a little bit like that. Okay. It's almost old school for me. Whoop, tree in the way. There we go. So I will get this laid out, and I will see you in a moment. Okay, there we go. So, we need to give our locomotive. There you go. We need to define this station. So let's call this iron or blip. Iron or out. Nice simple name. Let's get a nice meaningful color. So a light shade of blue to maybe match up with the iron ore itself. We'll shift right click on that and can clone that onto our train. So if we see a blue train like that, we know, okay, that's dealing with iron. Another thing we can do is we can also filter this, which is more useful later on when you're sending out specific things. We are actually just doing this just in case this ends up somewhere it shouldn't be. So in the event that it lands in some area that's trying to import stuff, then the wagon will not get filled up with stuff that the train can't actually use. Doesn't happen terribly often, but you're always happy that you planned ahead when it does. And let's add a couple of lines here so we can actually get some power into you. Apparently we're going to be a little bit irritating. There we go. Okay, so that's one side already filling in, and we're going to be adding our stations. So when iron ore out, wait condition until full cargo, And then we need to add our second station down there, which will be our iron ore in. But first, let's get this overline in. So there we go, that's all sides filling in. And it's climbing. It's not climbing remotely near as fast as you can actually load up a cargo wagon, but it is loading up pretty quickly for us right now. Let's give you some fuel, and then we can actually just drive you around to the place we need you to be for right now. Can't really filter those, unfortunately, so we just have to be careful with that part. The only things that should end up in this slot are burnables, so that's usually things like wood, coal, solid fuel, that sort of thing. You can't run this on liquids, although hey, maybe that'd be an interesting mod to play around with. And we're just gonna hop in here, wait for this to fill, which will not evidently take very long. Cargo wagons can hold a grand total of 2k iron ore, so yep, that's gonna be filled up pretty damn quick. And 50 per stack is the standard for most ores. So you can bear that in mind. Each additional cargo wagon is an additional 2,000 ore to smelt. 0.8. 0.9. And the zeros will just stop when we hit 2k, grand. Okay, right, well, we're on manual control, so we can actually just speed this around. Keep an eye on the speed as we go. You can see it is utterly destroying the potential speeds of our tank. It's also actually destroying the speeds of our buggy, so we can bear that in mind. And let's just make sure this is parked so the wagon is about central. And let's grab ourselves our other train stop. And we'll copy that as well, and we're gonna put iron ore in. So now we have our input station. So iron ore in until empty cargo. So yeah, you can just hop along there, and we'll see about getting this unloaded. Now again, we only have the 4 lanes here. I'm actually, though, going to try... This is a really funky thing that I've discovered here. You can do... Pretty much everybody has their own way of sorting out how stations are actually loaded and unloaded, but I'm actually, like, looking at one particularly strange one that I've managed to find, and I would very much like to see exactly how this one performs, so just follow along with me while I try to replicate the strangeness I have found here. So this is one particular idea about how to make 4 lanes that are fully stocked with blue belts. Obviously we don't have blue belts just yet, but this could be an entertaining thing just to see it be constructed. Oh, and our inserters are done. Hooray! Well, I guess now we can do cliff explosives, because apparently we need those now. Okay, looks like we can just about power all of this. Oh, very nearly. This is better when you have substations later on. Okay, so looking at it, items go through these buffers. They end up on this. They end up on this belt and that belt on opposite sides, so they end up in a nice little row section there. From there, we can actually put them into a regular balancer, should we wish. And as noted, I don't have a 8x8 balancer in my book here, so we're going to be splitting this off into 2 separate 4x4s, which will then be going into these. And that's going to be a little bit more of a work. So, catch you in a moment. Right. Little bit of awkwardness here because of our current copper mining, but we should nonetheless be able to send this all the way across and into here. And I'll be using these two middle ones because that will get us to both of these actual lines, so we can use that to make sure that we actually feed all sides of this balancer, even if it's not necessarily 100% balanced. Should be fine. We won't be getting full lines out of this, but we also don't really need them, at least not yet. We'll have to worry about that significantly later, really. So that gets us hooked into one. Let's get some power over here. Shouldn't be too hard. There we go. Time to see this weird system in action. And then it'll also get us back on the ground here. We do have a bunch of iron just building up back here because we haven't actually gotten rid of the miners, which admittedly would have been smarter. There's only 3 of them actually capable of functioning right now. But I can just slurp up all of the gubbins coming in here and just let's just drop them into the wagon. That's relatively easy. Later on, when you have that problem, you can just use logistics robots. It's so much easier. But meanwhile, while that's going, we always feed this up to up here and get the second side working. And fortunately, since I had to dismantle the previous setup that we had up here, this is actually going to be very much in budget for belts. So there goes the other half, and yeah, this would be much better if we had certainly blue lines as well as stack inserters, which we don't currently have access to, and of course if we had more wagons along the back, this would be even better. But for right now, this will do the job, and we should be just about to see this train take off. Or not quite the first time, but the first time actually in function. And there it goes. Okay. Now, once you actually have an automated train running, you do have to be very careful of the tracks, because there's almost no point in the game where a train at full speed isn't going to destroy you. There is a achievement that is best achieved via being hit by a train, but surviving is the harder part. That generally requires fairly late game shielding and the like. But okay, we now have a solution for our mining, and I need to go up there and collect the tank. Okay, I guess I'll hitch a ride the next time that's coming along. But that is 1.6 million now being mined out for us, so hurrah, we should have a solution on our iron. So, it's coming along, it's doing much, much healthier than it was before. I have a sneaking suspicion, yep, that these are going to be completely dry by the time it gets over here, so it's probably worth expanding that to at least 2 wagons. Depends how much more time we can it depends how much more quickly, really, we can make sure that this gets filled. So, it's about to hit 2k, and it's going to come through, but we've just had this big drop-off point now where we're not producing any iron plates, so that's another thing that we do need to worry about. We can at least fit it still on the same screen as the last pieces of iron produced, but it's not quite fitting it, it's not quite full just yet. And an alternative way to do that is to just have multiple trains. That is very, very much a thing that we'll be moving towards in the near future. But for right now, that's what I have for you. So next time around, we'll be, I don't know if we're quite up to fixing up our science now that we need to get petroleum gas down here, and we still don't really have a great supply of petroleum gas. I don't know that this has even been out since. But we do need to make sure that we're dealing with our light oil. So, yeah, I guess we'll be dealing with that in the next episode. So I hope you've all enjoyed, and as ever, catch you next time.